So welcome back. Today we're doing something different than last tutorial. Just a little cliffhanger. So now we learn a lot of data types such as dictionary, list tuple, number, and booleans, which are true and false. We didn't learn set yet because we'll leave it to the later episode. But today we're going to talk about a different topic. We're going to talk about a looping through some process of code so you can do your code more efficiently. Alright, so let's use a scenario to help you understand better why we use loop. So loop just simply means in programming means looping means go through some line of code repeatedly executed. Alright, so for example, here's our fruits. We got apple, got banana, and got orange. That's all the 3 words we get. So I could print out every element. Well, this way to print out all the elements is to use, you can just say from print out fruits, bracket 0, print out fruits, bracket 1, print out fruits, bracket 2. And we let it run. Indeed, what we saw is apple, banana, and orange. Alright. So, well, that's okay. But, what if I have a list like this? From random words, import random words. So, let me go ahead and comment these lines out. So, what's happening here? Well, I'm not going to tell you the length of random words, but I can tell you this is the type of random words, which is second random words here. So this means file. Take a look here. There's random words, random underscore word. So I import random words, which is a list or variable that is a list, from this Python file. So just to double check the type, I can say type random word. If we go through this again, you can see it's class list. Again, we're going to talk about this class later on in the tutorial, but we're just focused on its list. Alright. Good. So, now how to loop through this? How can I use print? Well, I still can just say print fruits 0, print fruits 1, print, not fruits anymore, sorry, random words. It's really just some random words. And what you see is supermoms, dorsoventral were re-injured. I get these random words from an API or application programming interface. They're basically just randomly generated words. So I don't even know these words. What do they mean or how to even say it? So yeah. But how do I know it's the end? How do I know how many words are there? Well, recall I have a length operator. I can use print out lengths of it. But I don't want to spoil it yet, so I can say, let's just go really far. Okay, so snowdrop, 999, let's go 1,000. Okay, now what you get is the indexer, let's index out of range. Okay, so now what we're going to do is going to fix this. We're not going to use random words like this. Instead, we're going to use a for loop. So we can loop through this element multiple times. We're going to see two ways to write this for loop. And they both work. Okay? So let's take a look on way 1. Okay. So for word in random word, print out word. I'm gonna take up about 10 seconds or so just to print out the words because it's executing on the server and the random word list is super long. So yeah, if we could just wait patiently, and now it's get at. Print out all the elements out. Alright. Okay. So how does it actually work? Well, it works. If we can take a look. Let me go through how this works underneath the hood. So, there are two keywords. One is for, one is in, because they're coloring pink. It's a different color than this. So, what happened here is loops through every element in random word. So, recall the list is iterable, so you can loop through every element. And let's go to the top. So for the first iteration, is found supermoms. Okay, so what it does is store supermoms in word variable. This is an iteration variable where it's gonna change during every iteration most likely. So it's going to print out that variable, which is going to print out supermoms. Then it's going to do the same process again, except this time it's going to go to the, oh god, this takes so much time to scroll up. It's going to go to the second element, dorsal to ventral, that re-injured, and then so on and so forth. So that's how it works, and word variables get modified every single time. Every single iteration. This is the first way to written a for loop. Second way to write a for loop is to use for word for index in range length random word. Print out random word bracket index. So what's happening here is it did around the same thing, about the same thing. It printed out everything out, but what it does this time is it's not only it's just a different way. You see a bracket notation here, because that bracket notation is where you try to get an element for a specific index number. Why storing index it this way? Well, let's take a look what's happening underneath the hood here. So this is index. This is our variable, and we saw new keyword range, but we're not gonna worry about it. Just like math, we're gonna go to the most inner parenthesis, see what's happening in there, and then so it's going to work just like math. So this is a first and only function, the range function. So what's happening here is I essentially get the length of the random words. Recall length is a function that's used when trying to get a length of some iterable elements. So random words. So what does it return? It should be 900. It should be 1,000. There's 1,000 elements. So this gives you 1,000. So essentially doing here is it's equal to basically the same thing as range 1,000. Now what is range doing now? Well, if we take a look, what is range doing? Is it well, now we're going to talk about what is range. So I'm going to create a new Python file called range.py, because range is a native Python method function, so I cannot re-import it. So let's see from range_py.py. So what's happening here is I'm going to talk about range function using actual function notation. So 1 parameter, 2 parameter, 3 parameter. So parameter, I'm going to talk about later, is basically the value you put in parentheses. Pretty sure I spelled this incorrectly, but parentheses. So, one parameter. What happens when we provide one parameter? Well, essentially, it loops through from 0 to the given value minus 1. So, it's not looping through. So, it's not. So, for example, we'll have a value like this. Print out I. So, let's take a look. And then let me go import. You don't have to know all of these yet, but hopefully you can understand. Okay. So let's try to execute this. What you see is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 get printed out. So it's 5, but it's still printing out 5 elements. So what is happening is it stored a number in I. Or more specifically, it's stored from 0 to that number minus 1. So the first time you see, okay, I'm going to loop through 5 times. So it's going to keep track how many times it loops through. I believe that's how it should be working underneath the hood. So it say, okay, I is 0 less than, so is 0 working? I mean, or is, so 0 is the first time, so it should always get printed out. Then it's 1. Okay, so how many times did I loop through so far? Well, count this. Well, I only looped through 1 time right now because of 0, so I'm going to go to loop, update I to 1. And I'm going to do the same thing for 2, going to do the same thing for 3, and then going to do the same thing for 4. But when it goes through again to 5, it's going to decide, okay, how many times did I iterate through already? I iterate 5 times, 5 equals 5, so I'm not going to execute print I, therefore this loop ends. Okay, that's what happens when you provide one parameter. Start with 0 to the given number minus 1, incrementing 1 at each time. But what happens when we provide 2 parameters? So, for example, for I in range, let's say 1, 5, print out I. Guess what's happening here? Let's try to execute 2 parameters. What happening is it's print out 1, 2, 3, 4. So what's happening is now it changed the starting value. So instead of 0, it's going to start in 1 and end in this number minus 1. So what's happening here is that, okay, so I'm going to start with 1 and keep its iteration. I'm probably not going to keep the iteration anymore since I have second parameter. It can just compare it. So for I equals 1, so it's going to store this I equals 1. It's going to get printed out. Next, it's going to increment by 1 by default still, but this time I'm going to get 2. So for I, then I can update to 2. Then print out 2, print out 3, print out 4. But when it's doing a 5, it's going to say, okay, 5 equals 5. So now I'm going to end this loop. Alright, what about 3 parameters? So what's happening here is you can provide 3 values here, such as 1, 5, 2. Print out I. So it's 3 parameters. What's happening here is only print out 2 values, but why? Because these 2 values are still working the same thing as 2 parameters, but this is an incrementing value. So it's increment 2 at each time. You can see, okay, start with 1. Start with 1, then add 2, which is 3. Then it's gonna say, okay, let's keep adding because it's still less than 5. Add 2 is 5. I'm not gonna execute this anymore. And this is bringing us to the end of the loop. So that's a brief description on range. Please comment below to let me know whether you understand it or not. I know I'm not the best explainer. I try this in my best possible way. But at least it's better than reading the Python documentation, I believe. It's really a little bit harder to understand, but you should read it anyway. Alright, so now I understand what range is doing here. Let's go ahead and take a look what's happening here. So length of the words, random words, basically translate to 1,000. So how many parameter it is? It is one parameter. So for indexing range of 1,000, so it's essentially going to loop through 0 to 999, and then it's gonna go store that value in the index. So essentially, this time what's difference? The key difference is this doesn't loop through this list at all. It doesn't loop through this list in the actual loop itself, but it get the number or the index number we can use later to get the value. So you're probably going to use in different case. For example, for remove an element, you can remove by index much easier than remove by value. Alright, so that's a quick brief description about loop. Okay. Nice. So let's go ahead and talk about more about break statement. So break statement. What is break statement? Well, let me write a loop here. So for I range, actually, I'm just gonna paste it here. Alright. So for I in range of 1,000, and then let me print out I. So what this loop going to essentially do, you should be knowing this by now, it's going to print out every integer value from 0 to 999, including both number. Alright, but what if I'm like, for some reason, I just want to print out 1, but I want to show off to my friend that I don't need to change the range value. So basically what I'm saying is, how can I print out 1 no matter what this range value is? It can be 2, can be 1, can be 999, can be 73,582, something like that. But that's where the break statement comes in. So if we execute this loop, let me make sure there should be nothing. Sorry for if it's unreadable, but okay. So now what's happening is it just print out 0. Why? Well, break statements work like this. As you can see from the help here, break to stop the loop cycle. So break is used when you want to break out of a loop immediately. So it will only print out 0 this time, in this case. So it's going to like, okay, for I in range of 1,000, print out I. Print out I. And then immediately exit this loop. Immediately. So then, therefore, it can only print out 0. That's how you want to use a break statement. You want to exit out a loop for some reason, which is pretty common. Next, we're going to talk about similar to break, continue. So we're gonna say this: continue print out I. So before I run this, I just want to tell you what does continue work. Continue, it works as it will not exit this loop immediately, so when it reach continue, it skip to the next loop cycle. So let's go to the next iteration. So guess what can happen when I print out this? Just to make it a little bit clearer, I'm just going to say print out and loop. Indeed, what you saw is absolutely nothing can print out except and loop. So what's happening here is essentially every time it's looping through this, this for loop, it's see the continue statement at the first thing. So gonna happen is, okay, let's go next iteration. So essentially happening here is print I never actually happened. So it will never get executed. Doesn't have a chance. So therefore it will print out absolutely nothing and just print an end loop. So that's continue, break, and continue. They're really similar, so make sure you know what I'm doing. So you don't get this wrong. But also, now if you take a look at my code, you will see some indentation here. I actually press my tab key to do it. So make sure you indent your statement, especially for loop, when you are trying to loop through something. So for example, if I don't indent, here's what's gonna happen. For in range of 1, print out I. So it should be just print out 0. But instead I saw syntax error because whoops, I cannot scroll down for some reason. Let me try to not full screen this. Full screen again. Okay. So what happening is make sure you have a colon to let it work. Python actually check your style, like essential style. Alright. This video has a lot of stuff. So thank you for embracing with me. Now we can talk. Actually, let me see. Yes, finally, we're gonna talk about nested loop. So, what do you mean by nested loop? Well, let me go back. So, nested loops basically mean a loop inside of another loop. Let's take a look at this example. So, for example, I got adjectives, small, medium, big, numbers. This is 1, 2, 3. And if we try to loop through, so every time what I want to see is print out something like 1 is small, 2 is medium, 3 is big. Something like this. So I'm gonna accomplish this task. Well, I need to use a for loop if I want to make sure to loop through every element and not hard code it. So I'm gonna say for number in numbers. Recall this is just going to store every element, which is 1 to 3 in the number variable. And then I can say for adds and print out. Whoops. Okay. So it's not gonna work like this. Sorry, my bad. So it's gonna work like each element correspond to each adjective. So it's gonna say 1 small, 1 medium, 1 big, 2 small, 2 medium, 2 big, 3 small, 3 medium, 3 big. So I can say from number, print out number, sternify this, plus a space. It's not really a conventional way to do this anymore, since Python actually has some string processing tool, which we're going to talk about in a later episode. And print out edge. So let's run this. And what you see is 1 small, 1 medium, 1 big, 2 small, 2 medium, 2 big, 3 small, 3 medium, 3 big. So what's happening is here. So it's looped through this number. And then right now, number is 1. This is first iteration. Number is 1. Then I'm going to loop through the adjectives. And then the first time adj is small. Okay. And then it's going to print out 1 small. Second time, it's not going to go straight back to here because there's still an ongoing loop here. So you're going to go here first and going to say, okay, update this to medium, then big, and then finally, what's going to happen? This is going to become 2, this is going to become small, restarted, small, medium, big, so on and so forth. That's how nested loops work. Phew, that's a lot of stuff covered, and loop is really one fundamental part of programming and computational thinking. So I hope you'll understand this video. If you don't, feel free to comment below. And Yes, thanks for watching, and if you like this video, please smash the like button and subscribe this YouTube channel. And believe or not, your just click that button. 2 buttons really helps. And thanks very much, and have a nice day, nice evening, or not good morning, good afternoon, based on where you live. Alright, thanks for watching. I will see you next time, which we will talk more on loops.